What's going on with all you beautiful people, extraterrestrials, and whatever you want to identify yourself as? It's your boy Rob. Yes, just Rob. Back at it with another video. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about Persona today. But not just any Persona, Persona 2. So y'all know about Persona, but y'all don't really know about Persona, you feel me? Persona's an awesome series, man. Like, what other game series can provide you with over 70 hours of gameplay while still keep you entertained with a plethora of activities such as playing pool, going to the batting cages, hanging out at the beach, and of course, hanging out with friends as well. The Persona franchise has 5 mainline games and way too many spin-offs to count. They also just released a remake for Persona 3 at the time of this recording. I personally haven't played it yet since I've been busy with Pal World and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, but I've heard great things about the game. With Persona being on fire recently, I want to shed some light on what I like to call the middle child of Persona 2, Persona, which is Persona 2. If I had to compare, Persona 3 would definitely be the older child. They had to take care of all the babies, which is 4 and 5. You know, since all of the games later on in the series kind of got the same framework for Persona 3. 5 is definitely the spoiled one. 5 got everything it wanted as a kid. But I see Persona 2 is just to be like that middle child that always seems to be forgotten, man. I just don't understand why, because I feel like it's one of the best. When Atlus announced they were remaking Persona 3, I was kind of irritated, to be honest, not gonna lie. I mean, they just ported over Persona 3 recently last year, and the game by itself still holds up. But I was really hoping they would have did something with Persona 2, kind of like a remake, or even if they would have just ported it over, I would have been happy with that. Simply because that game just needs some more love, man. The only way you can play it is through PS1, PSP, or through emulation. But hey, it is what it is, and that's why you're here to hear me complain about why Persona 2 has always been the best Persona. But first, if you don't mind, can somebody play my intro, please? Now, before we dive into Persona 2, we must first talk about why I got into Persona. See, I too was a filthy 2K player at one point in time. That was some terrible times. But a transition from that game over to Overwatch, which is also a pretty toxic game, even though they try to make the game better. Well, for the most part. It wasn't until my friend put me on the idea of trying Persona 5 on PlayStation. Now, I don't know about you all, but up to this point, I was not the biggest fan of turn-based RPGs, and this game right here was the main culprit for it. This game fucking sucks. It's one thing to take a more real-time approach to your turn base, but it's another thing to have the weird class system they implemented in Final Fantasy 13. Like, there's no real dodge or guard mechanic in that game. The only way to soak up damage was to either heal over it or make someone play the Sentinel role, which is basically like a tank that allows you to provoke enemies or taunt enemies and make them attack only them. Again, that was hot dumpster juice goose sweat. Like, I feel like if you're gonna have an RPG, there should be a guard system or some sort of more reliable way to defend. No question about it. So understandably, I've kind of stayed away from the turn-based RPGs at this point. You know, I was still playing my Skyrims and Fallouts and Mass Effects back when Fallout was good, and Mass Effects. But I kind of stayed away from turn-based RPGs all in a while. But I got Persona 5 on a sale, figured I might as well at least try it. And man, I saw the animation and I loved it. And those that know me personally know I love some good animation. The first hour was kind of slow until we got to the palace of the first boss, which is Kaneshiro. And those who play the game, you know the rest. Kaneshiro finds us, Mass Parade, Persona Awakens, yada yada yada. But we haven't gotten to any gameplay at this point. Then I got my first encounter, and I heard that wonderful melody. I'm gonna put my hot take in now and say that Last Surprise is by far the greatest song in any video game OST ever. I don't care about God of War. You know I don't care about The Last of Us. I don't care about what other game you can say. Last Surprise is the only song where I've stopped mid-battle and listened to the whole song. It's just that good. But we got a bit sidetracked. One thing I know Atlus gonna always do is have a banging ass soundtrack, man. Overall, Persona 5 is fantastic, but its in-depth gameplay from fusing personas to making all new ones to using those personas to exploit enemies' weaknesses with status ailments and using different magic types to the awesome dungeon design. Persona 5 has easily the best dungeon design in the series. It's not even close. But what really made Persona 5 stick out for me was the different things you could do when you aren't grinding in a dungeon and mementos, such as the batting cages, playing darts, of course hanging out with your friends in the form of the party members, which actually ends up being your social links. My bad. Confidant. The characters are all great in this game as well. Well, for the most part. Persona 5 Royal also took everything the base game had to offer and kicked it up a notch to make it even better. Once I built my PC and learned how to emulate, I wanted to play the older Persona games. Well, minus this one, because fuck that dungeon crawling first person mechanic. And as I eventually end up rolling credits on Persona 5, I got to thinking to myself as I went to go download 4 and eventually 3, surely these games all can't be this good, right? Maybe they just happened to strike gold with Persona 5. Well, newsflash, they all are. They're pretty fucking good. As I wrapped up Persona 3, there was only one game left for me to play. But wait, there's like 2 of them. Which one do I play? So remember I mentioned that you can only play Persona through to emulating or owning a PS1/PSP? Well, that's because the localization is all janky for this game. When Persona 2 Innocent Sin first dropped in '99, it was only released in Japan. I mean, duh, it's a Japanese company. But let me further explain. Atlus planned on having this game be localized and shipped to the West during a tragic event in US history. I won't name it because I don't want to get demonetized. But for those that know, you know, back in 2001. And depictions of towers being destroyed in some of the cutscenes for this game, you know the good old bald eagle and beer drinkers wasn't going to let that slide. So Atlus took upon themselves to release Eternal Punishment, which is the sequel to Innocent Sin, on the PS1. Yes, the PS1. You truly don't know how much of an eyesore it is to play that game on the PS1 with the graphics that we have nowadays. Even through emulation and graphic fidelity mods, it still can't bring that game to life, man. Atlus eventually released a PSP version of Innocent Sin, which features an upgrade in the graphics department, but we never got a PSP version of Eternal Punishment in the West. My experience with Persona 2 was through Innocent Sin at first, and I had no expectation because up to that point, I wasn't looking up any gameplay for these games, so I hopped on the VM's layer, downloaded the file, and booted it up, and man, let me tell you something. Other than the first Dead Space and Mass Effect 3, Persona 2 Innocent Sin has one of the best first hours of gameplay I've ever played through. You start off by meeting the main character Tetsuya, more on him later, fixing up his bike, and his teacher asking him what are his plans after finishing high school. The choice you pick really doesn't matter to the story so much, so we'll just keep going. Then you meet Lisa, who is friends with Tetsuya, and trust me, she definitely wants to be more than friends. After all that, you meet up with Akechi, who's from a rival school, and you heard he's been talking that shit, and he wants you to meet up with them at this prison. Why the prison? I have no idea. So you head over there and meet up with Akechi, and he's all like, what's up? And Tetsuya's all like, what's up? Shit. And then that's when our heroes awaken to their persona and pass out and wake up in a realm of consciousness and meet Philemon, who's basically like the god in this universe. He basically tells them, somebody's out to bring evil to this world, and y'all niggas gotta stop him. In this game, rumors are a big part of this game, and that's why I think Persona 2 has easily the best world building in this franchise. I even go as far to say it's not even close, but hey, to each their own. Rumors in this town become true, which helps with doing things such as making weapons, selling rare items in the shop, and also buying rare items, and armors as well, or you can just create new medicine in the stores. This is all done by speaking to one of the rumor mongers to help spread the word around the town. Think about a messy high school where you have the gossip girl spreading rumors about somebody sleeping with someone, even though it's not true. But in this game, it actually happens. Lisa wanted to try a rumor she heard about summoning the Joker. No, not this one. And not this one either. But the rumor is as follows. If you do a specific chant and call your own number, the Joker will come to help fulfill your dreams. However, if you freeze up and don't tell him, he will steal away your ideals because he believes that if you aren't willing to follow through with him, you shouldn't have had dreams. Me personally, I agree. Like, you called me over here, nigga, why are you wasting my time? But anyways, if this were to happen, you would literally become a nobody and fade away to no existence. No, like literally, nobody will even know who you are. And that's Persona 2 Innocent Sin in a nutshell. The story about becoming a lame. So our three heroes go off, meet some more party members to become stronger and face the Joker at the end, yada yada yada. You know how these games usually go. If you want a more detailed explanation of the story, I'll link some reference videos below. This is just more so about an overview of me expressing of why I feel like Persona 2 has always been the best Personas. So I'm pretty sure you're wondering from the thumbnail, what makes Persona 2 so goated? As I mentioned before, the world building in this game is easily the best hands down. The fact that the rumors coming true and being able to use it to your advantage is genius, and it really makes the world feel alive. Even in the game that came out in 1999, it's nice to see that these developers are actually thinking outside the box, you know, unlike how games are now. In between dungeons and fights, you can also go back to town and talk to people, and it's always a nice touch to just hear how people are reacting to your actions in the game. And also in this game as well, like 3 and 5, you can have not only the MC, but the party members as well be able to use and fuse multiple personas, which adds another layer of depth to the gameplay. There's also fusion spells as well, which when certain conditions are met, like for example, 2 party members are using a fire ability, you can break out a nice fire spell, which will use both of the party members, and it deals hella damage. And as you know with Atlus, the soundtrack is always gonna be banging. The story is easily the best, and Atlus still hasn't made a story that comes close to anything they put out in Persona 2. It starts off as I mentioned before, you're trying to stop the Joker and eventually bring peace to Samaru City, but the story goes more in depth to the point where, without spoiling obviously, the characters are all being linked to past childhood traumas, them facing those traumas and their eternal conflicts within themselves. So even by the point where we get into the end game, we're having to stop a German uprising, even having to face hit. Right. My bad, I meant H-Man. I know it sounds like a lot, but as you're playing, it all makes sense. I think Persona 4 has slightly a better cast of characters, but this is definitely a close second. And it's way better than these guys. And especially this one. You have Akechi, who puts on a philosophical mask and acts as this brash, cocky, and confident figure on the outside, but on the inside, he's really secure about his personal image since he was mainly bullied for being a fat kid. You have Lisa, who's an American living in Japan, who has a dad that's nose deep in Japanese culture. However, most people see her as a foreigner trying to appropriate, but all in all, she's really just trying to fit in. Then we have fan favorite Maya, who's a bubbly and optimistic character who acts as the leader of the team, but unknowingly has a deep past with the rest of the characters. And then there's the main character Tatsuya, who is easily the best silent protagonist in the entire series. and its action in the ending leads directly to Eternal Punishment, which actually leads me directly into Eternal Punishment. Eternal Punishment, from a gameplay perspective, follows the same model as Innocent Sin, but with a new cast of characters, and it follows an alternate timeline for Innocent Sin. You have Bafu, a Taiwan native who's on a revenge arc in order to kill the man responsible for his assistant's death. Yes, I said kill. Persona at this point was way darker than what we got now. There's Katsuya, who's the older brother of Tatsuya, the MC from Innocent Sin, who comes off as a stern and cold perfectionist, but deep down he only really wants his brother to not go down a dark path. And I respect that. You have Ulala, who is Maya's roommate and has a bad relationship with men, who leads her down to alcohol abuse. Then you got Tatsuya, who is not an MC in this game, but still a playable character who's now on a journey to right back his wrongs and live with his innocent sin. See what I did there? And there's Maya, who's now the MC of this game, and I'm personally not a fan of Maya in this one, simply because they made her a solid protagonist. It took away all the core elements of her character from the last game. Now, I obviously won't go in too deep into it because of spoilers, but it was a point into Innocent Sin where Maya and the rest of the party members got into some deep doo-doo in the story, and she just had one of the most memorable quotes in all of Persona. She simply just said, "Worse than alone, exiled. Worse than exiled, dead. Worse than dead, forgotten." And we didn't get anything on that same level in Eternal Punishment because they made her a silent protagonist. But hey, it is what it is. Now, if you ask me which one I prefer out the two, I'll take Innocent Sin just because I feel like the cast of characters was just a better fit since they all have history with one another. Plus, that ending was just, chef's kiss. People think Persona 3 is pretty sad. I'm not going to disagree with them, but man, compared to Innocent Sin and what Tatsuya had to live with after that ending, it's just Mickey compared to it, man. Like, that ending was something else. But a lot of people seem to really enjoy EP more, but both are great games that follow a more mature approach to character development, which features living in your truth, not being regretful in life, and ultimately not letting what others or fate decide how you should live your life, but ultimately living the way that you want to live. I wish that Atlus would make Persona 6 a bit more mature or darker tone than what we've been previously getting, or at least make a remake of these two, but at this point, they're far too alone in the Persona 5 model, so all a guy can do is dream, am I right? I'm not sure what Atlus has in store for Persona 6 or whenever it's dropping, but all we can do is just hope it at least follows some of the elements of Persona 2. As always, if you liked the video, then like the video, and I will see you all whenever the fuck I see you. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.